I'm not proud of it, but yeah, I ended up sleeping with Lily, my wife's friend. I know you're probably thinking, what the hell? Trust me, I get it. It's all kinds of messed up. But if you had any idea what Sophia put me through, you might see things differently. Or maybe you wouldn't. Either way, that's where this story begins. It's been gnawing at me for a while, and I need to get everything out in the open. No more holding back. Before everything fell apart, people would have said Sophia and I had a strong marriage. We worked well together. At least that's what I thought. She used to be supportive, understanding, and we had this nice, steady routine. She always made time for us, no matter how busy things got, and she'd listen to me like what I said mattered. But somewhere along the way, everything changed, and trust me, it wasn't one of those slow fades. It hit me like a damn freight train. Looking back, I should have seen it when she became close with Lily, her new best friend. They met at some work event or maybe a yoga class. I don't even remember anymore. But Lily was nothing like Sophia. She was wild, carefree, always out partying, the life of the scene. At first, I didn't mind. I thought maybe Sophia needed a friend like that to balance out her serious side. Maybe she'd even have a little fun for once. But soon enough, Sophia's time with Lily started taking over. At first, it seemed harmless, just a couple of drinks after work or the occasional weekend out. But it quickly became a regular thing, every Friday and Saturday like clockwork. She and Lily would head to this club downtown. You know the type. Overpriced drinks, terrible music, and a bunch of wannabe social media stars posing for selfies. That's when I started seeing the cracks. We stopped spending time together like we used to. I'd suggest going out for dinner or catching a movie, but she'd brush me off, saying she was too tired or had already made plans with Lily. This wasn't the same Sophia I knew. She even started dressing differently. Tighter clothes, lower cut tops. I didn't mind at first, but something about it didn't feel right. It wasn't her. One night, while she was out again, I was scrolling through Instagram to pass the time, and I stumbled on it. A photo of Sophia and Lily at the club. They were both hammered, arms draped around each other, grinning like they didn't have a care in the world. But it wasn't the picture that got me. It was the guys in the background, way too close for comfort, acting like they knew them a little too well. I felt this heavy pit in my stomach. Something was off, but I couldn't quite figure out what. I tried telling myself I was overreacting, but little things started piling up. Sophia was pulling away, and it wasn't just about her going out so much. It was the way she looked at me, or more like how she avoided looking at me. She stopped asking how my day went, stopped wanting to do the stuff we used to enjoy together. When she was home, it felt like she wasn't really there. I'd ask her about her nights out, and every time she'd give me the same half-assed answer. Oh, it was fun. Nothing much to talk about. But I knew something wasn't right. I just couldn't shake it. One night I tried to talk to her about it. We were in the kitchen, and I laid it all out, told her I missed spending time together. I said it felt like she was more interested in hanging out with Lily than with me. You know what she did? She rolled her eyes like I was the one being ridiculous. Mark, you're being paranoid. Lily just likes to go out, that's all. Stop being such a control freak, she snapped. I wasn't trying to control her. I just wanted to understand what the hell was happening to us. But every time I brought it up, she either got defensive or brushed me off, like my feelings didn't matter. So I stopped asking. I tried convincing myself I was overthinking it, that I just needed to back off and trust her. But deep down, I knew something was off. That nagging feeling wouldn't leave me. Then one night, it all became clear. Sophia went out again with Lily. Same story, same excuses. I was home alone, restless, flipping through my phone. Out of curiosity, or maybe desperation, I checked social media again. Lily had posted another video. Same club, same scene, Sophia and Lily dancing, laughing. But this time, there was a guy. He was right behind Sophia, way too close. He leaned in, whispering something in her ear, and she laughed. Not in the way you'd expect if it was innocent. That's when it hit me, something was definitely wrong. I couldn't ignore it any longer. I had to know what was going on, and I wasn't about to sit around waiting for her to come clean. So, I reached out to Tom, an old buddy who worked security at that club. I didn't give him all the details, just said I needed to know if he'd seen anything unusual. The truth? I wasn't even sure I wanted to hear what Tom had to say. For weeks, I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that something was going on behind my back. After all the nights Sophia spent out with Lily, acting like I didn't exist and brushing off my concerns, I knew it was time to face reality. That video Lily posted on Instagram haunted me. The way that guy was leaning into Sophia, way too close, and the fact that she didn't even try to push him away. My gut was screaming that something was wrong, and this time, I wasn't going to sit around pretending everything was fine. That's when I made the call to Tom. Tom and I go way back. High school football teammates, the whole deal. He's always had my back, even though we don't hang out like we used to. He worked security at that club Sophia and Lily couldn't get enough of. So if anyone knew the truth about what really went down during those innocent girls' nights, it'd be him. I didn't beat around the bush. I straight up asked him if he'd seen anything out of the ordinary when Sophia was there. At first, Tom hesitated, probably because he didn't want to get dragged into the mess, or maybe he felt bad about being the one to break the news. But after a bit of pressing, he let out a long sigh and gave me the answer I had been dreading. Mark, I don't want to be the one to tell you, but yeah, I saw her last Friday. She was real close with some guy. I think his name was Ryan. That name, Ryan, seared into my brain. My stomach twisted, and a wave of nausea slammed into me. Part of me wanted to end the conversation right there, to pretend I never heard it, but I had to know more. I needed proof. There was no way I was going to confront Sophia without solid evidence. If you want, I can show you the footage, Tom offered, his voice low. There are cameras all over the place at the club. I hesitated, wondering if I could really handle watching what I feared. But curiosity, or maybe rage, took over. Yeah, send it to me. The rest of that day passed in a blur. I kept trying to convince myself that maybe it wasn't as bad as I thought, that I was overreacting. I don't even know why I bothered with that lie anymore. By the time the footage came through, my heart was already pounding, and my hands were trembling. I opened the file, bracing myself for the worst. There she was, Sophia, sitting at the bar, laughing, flirting with some guy. I zoomed in. Tom had been right. It was Ryan. They weren't just friendly. They were way too familiar. It started small, her hand grazing his arm, him leaning in to whisper something in her ear. And she didn't stop him. She smiled. That damn smile, the one that used to be for me, now wasted on some stranger I'd never met. I watched, feeling sick to my core, as they got up from the bar, drinks in hand, and made their way through the crowd. The camera followed them as they slipped out a side door into an alley behind the club. And then I saw it. My breath hitched as they moved to a dark corner, mostly hidden from view, except for the camera that caught every disgusting second. Sophia backed against the wall, and Ryan didn't waste any time. He pressed himself against her, and she let him. No, she didn't just let him, she welcomed it. They were kissing, his hands all over her, up her dress, pulling her close. And she didn't pull away. Not once. I froze as the reality crashed over me like a tidal wave. This wasn't just some harmless flirting. This was real. This was betrayal. I watched, numb, as Sophia started undressing right there in the alley. I felt like I might throw up. My heart pounded in my chest, but I couldn't tear my eyes away from the screen, no matter how badly I wanted to. Ryan turned her around, pressing her up against the wall, and they started having sex right there, out in the open. It was rough, quick, and she didn't care where they were or who might see them. It was like I didn't exist, like our marriage didn't matter at all. That was the moment I felt something inside me shatter. I slammed my laptop shut, my hands shaking. For a few minutes, I just sat there, staring blankly at the screen, my mind racing. Anger, betrayal, disgust, it all hit me at once. How could she do this? How could she come home to me, kiss me, act like everything was fine, and then sneak out to fuck some random guy in a back alley? I wanted to scream, to punch something, to break everything in sight. Instead, I sat there in stunned silence, the images replaying over and over in my head. Sophia's laugh, Ryan's hands on her, the way she didn't even hesitate. I felt like my whole world had just crumbled around me. I had no idea what to do next. Should I confront her right away? Should I just pack up and leave? The anger boiling inside me was almost too much to handle, but I knew I had to stay calm. I couldn't afford to lose it. Not yet, not until I figured out what to do next. Part of me wanted to believe it was just a one-time mistake, that maybe it didn't mean anything. But deep down, I knew better. People don't just throw their marriage away for a random fling. There had to be more, and I was going to find out the truth. That night, when Sophia walked through the door, it was like nothing had changed. She gave me her usual half-hearted smile, said she was exhausted, and headed straight to bed. I stayed in the kitchen, staring after her, wondering how she could even look me in the eye after what she'd done. I didn't sleep a single second that night. My mind spun with a million questions. What else had she done? How long had this been going on? I needed a plan, something to make her pay for what she had done. I wasn't just going to sit by and let her get away with this. I'm not an idiot. Sure, I could have confronted Sophia the second I saw that video, but where would that have gotten me? A screaming match? Her crying, begging for forgiveness, telling me it was a mistake? No, I wasn't about to let her turn this around and make herself the victim. I needed to be smart about it. I needed to hit her where it hurt most. So, I played it cool, acted like nothing had changed. When Sophia would stroll in after her nights out with Lily, I kept my mouth shut, pretended everything was perfectly fine, like I didn't know what a lying, cheating bitch she was. But in my head, I was already plotting her downfall. I wasn't about to just sit there and let her screw around behind my back without consequences. I was going to make sure she regretted every minute of it. And that's when it hit me, Lily. If Sophia thought she could betray me, I'd return the favor by sleeping with her best friend. It wasn't like the thought hadn't crossed my mind before. Lily had always been a little too flirtatious, a little too touchy when Sophia wasn't looking. There was this unspoken tension between us. Those lingering glances, the playful teasing, the smiles that lasted a second too long. I'd never acted on it before because, well, I was married. But now I had no reason to hold back. The first step was getting Lily alone. Sophia didn't need to know anything. One afternoon, when Sophia was out, I casually texted Lily, something simple like, "Hey, want to grab dinner sometime? It's been a while." I played it off as friendly, like I was just looking for a break from the drama Sophia had been causing, which, to be honest, wasn't far from the truth. Lily didn't hesitate. Of course, she didn't. She had been waiting for this opportunity. I could feel it. The night we met up, I made sure to look the part, dressed sharp, smelled good, the whole 9 yards. When we sat down for dinner, it was easy to slip back into those familiar flirtations. Lily was leaning in, laughing at everything I said, twirling her hair like some lovesick teenager. It was almost too easy. I knew exactly what I was doing, and I knew exactly how to push her buttons. We spent the evening reminiscing about old times. She even brought up some party we all went to years back, how drunk we'd gotten, and how she'd accidentally kissed me. The way her eyes sparkled when she mentioned it made it clear she wasn't bringing that up by mistake. And I let her. I flirted right back, starting off subtle, then getting more obvious as the night wore on. I told her how great she looked in her dress, how much I'd missed hanging out with her, how things with Sophia had been a lot lately. By the time dinner was over, we were practically sitting on top of each other. I didn't even have to push. Lily was all in. She suggested we head back to her place for drinks, and I played along like I didn't already know where this was going. When we got to her place, it felt like a game. She poured us both a drink, and before I knew it, we were on the couch, way too close for just friends. The air between us was thick with tension, and when she leaned in, I didn't back off. 1 minute we were talking, and the next we were kissing, her hands in my hair, mine roaming down her back. It escalated quickly. We didn't even make it to the bedroom before clothes started flying off. She was all over me, and I didn't hold back. I wanted this. No, I needed this. For the first time in a long while, I felt like I had control, like I was taking something back. Sophia had taken enough from me, and now I was taking something from her. The next morning, when I woke up next to Lily, I didn't feel a shred of guilt. Not even close. She was still asleep, tangled in the sheets, looking peaceful. I got dressed quietly, grabbed my things, and left before she woke up. There was no need for some awkward morning after chat. This wasn't about Lily. It was about me reclaiming some power, making sure Sophia would pay. With step one of my plan in place, I knew what had to come next. Divorce. I wasn't going to sit around like some clueless husband, waiting for Sophia to come clean about her bullshit. No, I was already ahead of her. That week, I called up James, my lawyer, and laid it all out, well, almost everything. I left out the part about Lily, of course. I gave him the facts. I had proof Sophia was cheating, I wanted a divorce, and I wasn't about to let her walk away with everything. James was sharp. He knew how to play dirty, and that's exactly what I needed. Keep it under wraps for now, I told him. Sophia can't know. I want to hit her with this when she's not expecting it. And that's exactly what we did. We got the paperwork in order, sorted out all the legal details, and waited for the right moment to pull the rug out from under her. Meanwhile, I kept playing the role of the good husband. I smiled when Sophia came home, asked about her night like everything was just peachy. But inside, I was boiling. Every time she kissed me, every time she smiled like nothing was wrong, I felt the anger rise. But I held it together because I knew that when the time came, it'd be worth it. The longer I waited, the sweeter it'd be when I finally hit her with the truth. There's something about revenge that gets under your skin in a way nothing else can. Every time I thought about Sophia with that prick Ryan, my blood boiled. But then I'd remember what I had in store for her. The divorce, the affair with Lily, the complete destruction of everything she'd built. That thought kept me going. I wasn't just going to take back control. I was going to burn everything to the ground and walk away smiling. Funny thing is, I didn't even have to do much for karma to start catching up with Sophia. It's almost hilarious how the universe has a way of dealing out payback when people least expect it. It started with small changes. Sophia wasn't herself. She seemed exhausted, more irritable than usual. And the biggest red flag? She wasn't hanging out with Lily nearly as much. At first, I didn't think much of it. I figured maybe she'd finally grown bored of her wild nights. Or perhaps the guilt was beginning to eat away at her. But then I saw it. That flash of panic in her eyes when she thought I wasn't paying attention. The way she kept nervously checking her phone like she was waiting for bad news. Something was definitely going on. Then, one afternoon, she came home looking pale and sweaty, like she'd just received the worst news of her life. She didn't say a single word to me, just walked straight to the bedroom and shut the door behind her. I knew she was hiding something, and it didn't take long for the truth to come out. A couple of days later, I overheard her on the phone, talking in those hushed, nervous tones. She was in the bathroom, door cracked just enough for me to catch bits and pieces of the conversation. Something about a doctor's appointment, test results, and that's when it hit me. She caught something. That bitch had actually picked up something from one of her flings. Later that night, when she thought I was asleep, I watched her slip her phone under the covers, typing away like her life depended on it. I could only imagine what she was looking up, symptoms, treatments, or maybe how to keep it hidden from me. But there was no hiding this. Not from me. The next day, Sophia went to the doctor. I didn't need to follow her. I already knew what was going on. And when she came back, her face said it all. She was scared out of her mind. That night, she tried to act normal, but it was obvious she was barely keeping it together. She poked at her dinner, barely ate, and kept glancing at her phone like she was waiting for the end of the world. When I asked her if everything was okay, she snapped at me. "I'm fine, Mark. I'm just tired," she spat, storming off to bed like she was the victim. She thought she could hold it together, thought she could keep this whole mess hidden from me, from Lily, from everyone. But I knew. I had always known. That's when I decided it was time to take things to the next level. I wasn't going to let her wallow in silence. No, I was going to make sure everyone knew exactly who she was, what she'd done, and the mess she'd gotten herself into. It didn't take much to leak the video of her and Ryan. Just a few anonymous uploads to some local forums, a couple of messages sent to the right people, and within hours, it was wildfire. Social media took care of the rest. Within no time, the video went viral. Everyone was talking about it, sharing it, tagging friends, gossiping about how Sophia, sweet, innocent Sophia, was caught on camera screwing some random guy behind a club. And, of course, the news about the venereal disease didn't take long to get out either. Whether it was someone at the doctor's office running their mouth or Sophia confiding in the wrong person, it didn't matter. The whole town knew. I sat back and watched the chaos unfold. My phone was blowing up, texts from friends, acquaintances, even a few colleagues, all asking if I'd seen it, if I knew what was going on. Naturally, I played dumb, acting shocked and devastated. I can't believe she'd do this to me, I'd say, soaking up every ounce of sympathy. But inside, I was loving every second of it. Watching Sophia's life fall apart in real time was more satisfying than I could have ever imagined. There was no escape for her. The shame, the embarrassment, it followed her everywhere. People she thought were friends, they vanished. Her colleagues? They started keeping their distance. Even Lily, her so-called best friend, began steering clear of her, probably terrified that her own skeletons might tumble out next. The best part? Sophia never once suspected it was me who set the whole thing in motion. She thought it was just a stroke of bad luck, that the video had somehow leaked by itself. Not once did she think her loving husband was the one pulling the strings behind the scenes. Every night, I'd scroll through social media, checking the comments, watching as people tore her apart. Sure, a few felt sorry for her, but most didn't hold back. The whispers turned into full-blown accusations, and soon enough, Sophia was the talk of the town, for all the wrong reasons. I could see it weighing on her. She stopped leaving the house unless she absolutely had to. Even then, she'd keep her head down, sunglasses on, like that could somehow shield her from the mess she'd created. But there was no hiding from this. It was everywhere. The disease? That was just a cherry on top. People talk. They always do. And when the rumors started swirling about her diagnosis, it didn't take long for the whispers to turn into outright condemnation. Everyone knew, and I made sure they knew. Watching her squirm, watching her life crumble while I sat there with my hands clean, was the most gratifying thing I'd ever experienced. She deserved every second of it. But I wasn't done yet. Then the day finally arrived. I had waited for this moment for what felt like forever, playing out how it would all unfold in my mind night after night. I was done pretending. The groundwork had been laid, and now it was time to finish what Sophia had started. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about taking back control, about making sure she knew just how badly she'd messed everything up. James, my lawyer, had everything ready. I had spent the last few months gathering evidence, neatly compiled. The video of her cheating with Ryan, the whispers about her venereal disease. It was all public knowledge, sure, but bringing it into a courtroom was a whole new level of humiliation. The courtroom felt colder than I expected. Sterile, almost lifeless. I sat next to James, watching as Sophia walked in, looking like a shadow of the woman I once knew. She had lost weight, her eyes hollow, the confidence that used to define her completely drained away. The guy she had scraped up as a lawyer looked like a half-baked last-minute choice, and it showed. James leaned in and whispered, "This won't take long. We got her trapped." I nodded, my heart racing. Not from nerves, though. This was the thrill of seeing it all come together. I didn't even glance her way. Not because I was still hurting, no, that was long gone, but because she wasn't worth my attention anymore. She was already out of my life, and today, I was burying the last piece of her for good. The negotiations were brutal. Her lawyer tried pulling the sympathy card, going on about how Sophia had been struggling, how she lost her job because of the scandal, and how the public humiliation was punishment enough. But James wasn't buying any of it. We're not here to discuss her personal suffering. This is about dividing assets, and we're dealing with the facts, he said coldly, barely sparing a glance at the other lawyer. And the facts were all there. She cheated, she dragged our marriage through the mud, and I had the receipts to back it up. James didn't waste time. He presented the video evidence, the testimony about her venereal disease, and the undeniable proof of her reckless behavior. Her lawyer tried to object, but he was grasping at straws. There was no defense. Everything was laid bare. Sophia's betrayal, her lies, and her complete downfall. I could feel the tension in the room as the judge reviewed the evidence. I didn't have to say a word. It was all out in the open now. Sophia sat there, eyes glued to the floor, avoiding eye contact with anyone. Her lawyer fumbled through some weak argument, trying to salvage whatever dignity he could. But it was crystal clear to everyone in that room. She had nothing left. When the judge finally spoke, it was like hearing the final nail in her coffin. Based on the evidence, I'm ruling in favor of Mr. Mark. He will retain the majority of the shared assets, including the marital home. Mrs. Sophia will be responsible for settling any remaining debts and will not be entitled to spousal support. And just like that, I had won. The house, the assets, the life we'd built together. It was all mine now. Sophia, on the other hand, was left with nothing but the ruins of her choices. As the ruling came down, I allowed myself a quick glance at her. She was pale, trembling, still staring at the floor like she wanted it to swallow her whole. But I didn't feel sorry for her. Not anymore. This was exactly what she deserved. As we left the courtroom, James turned to me with a smirk. "Well, that went even better than expected." "Yeah," I replied, not bothering to hide the satisfaction in my voice. "It did." Sophia didn't say a word as she left the courtroom. I watched her from a distance, her shoulders slumped, the weight of it all crashing down on her. Her reputation was already in tatters, but now she had nothing left. No job, no assets, no future. She destroyed it all with her own hands, and all I had to do was light the match. In the weeks that followed, things only got worse for her. The word spread quickly, as it always does. Her former colleagues cut ties, not wanting to be associated with someone whose dirty laundry had been aired so publicly. No one wanted to work with her, hire her, or even be seen with her. The scandal stuck to her like glue, and it became clear she wasn't going to recover from this. Sophia tried to hold on, sticking around in town like she could somehow rebuild from the ashes. But there was nothing left for her here. Eventually, I heard through mutual friends that she was selling off the last of her belongings, packing up whatever little she had left, and leaving town. Where she went, I didn't care. As long as she was out of my life, that's all that mattered. I pictured her in some dingy apartment, starting over in a city where no one knew her, with no friends, no job, and only the hollow echo of her mistakes to keep her company. It was fitting, really. She always craved more excitement, more freedom, and now she had all the space she could ever want, minus the life she destroyed along the way. Her departure didn't stir up much. It was like she vanished overnight, slipping away quietly, probably hoping everyone would just forget. But they wouldn't. Not after everything that happened. Her name would forever be tied to the scandal, the affair, the disease. That kind of thing doesn't just go away. As for me, I walked away with everything intact. I got the house, the assets, and most importantly, the satisfaction of knowing I'd come out on top. Sophia had tried to tear me down, but in the end, she only destroyed herself. And I was more than happy to watch it all unfold. It's funny how, once the dust finally settles, everything becomes clearer. The chaos, the rage, the thirst for revenge, they all fade over time. And what's left is a simple reality. I won. I came out ahead, and I was done carrying the weight of the past. After the divorce, and after Sophia's life crumbled into pieces, mine finally started to come together. With the house now in my name, the assets secured, and no more ties binding me to her, I could finally start fresh. There was something liberating about it. Knowing I didn't have to keep up appearances anymore, knowing I didn't have to deal with her lies or the endless bullshit that came with them. As for Lily, I cut her off too. After our night together, I had no use for her. Besides, she and Sophia weren't speaking anymore, and I didn't need another round of drama in my life. It was time to wipe the slate clean, to leave all that chaos behind. Lily was a reminder of everything I wanted to forget, so I let her fade into the background, just like I had with Sophia. Starting over wasn't as difficult as I thought it would be. At first, there was a strange quietness, an emptiness I hadn't expected. But that feeling didn't last long. I reconnected with some old friends, guys I hadn't hung out with in years because I've been too wrapped up in trying to keep my marriage afloat. We'd grab drinks, catch up on life, and it reminded me that there was a world outside the hell I'd been living in. Opportunities started showing up too. A few buddies had their own businesses and offered to bring me on board. It wasn't anything flashy, but it was steady, and it gave me the stability I needed to keep moving forward. Slowly but surely, the pieces of my life started falling back into place, this time without the weight of Sophia dragging me down. Of course, I expected her to reach out. It was only a matter of time. She had burned all her bridges. Her career, her friends, everything she'd built was in ashes. Naturally, she tried to claw her way back to the one person she thought might still care. One night, her name popped up on my phone. For a second, I just stared at the message, feeling a strange mix of curiosity and indifference. What could she possibly want? An apology? Closure? Maybe she just wanted to know if I still hated her. I didn't bother responding. I deleted the message and blocked her number. There was no point in digging up the past. Sophia was a chapter in my life that had been closed, and I wasn't about to reopen it. She made her choices, and I made mine. Now we were nothing more than strangers with a shared history, and that's how it was going to stay. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months, and before I knew it, the whole mess felt like a distant memory. People eventually moved on, the gossip died down, and I was left standing, free and clear of it all. Sometimes I drive through the city and pass places that used to mean something. The restaurant where Sophia and I had our first date, the bar where Lily and I shared that last drink. It all felt like part of someone else's life. And in a way, it was that version of me, the one who bent over backward trying to save a sinking marriage, the one who spent sleepless nights wondering where it all went wrong. That guy didn't exist anymore. Now, I was someone new. Someone who had been burned, but not broken. Someone who was finally free to live life on his own terms. As for Sophia, I had no idea where she ended up, and I didn't care. Wherever she was just a ghost from my past. The town had forgotten her, just like I had. I pictured her in some dingy apartment, scrolling through old photos of a life she had single-handedly destroyed, but that wasn't my problem anymore. She was gone, and I wasn't about to waste another second thinking about her. The future was wide open now, full of possibilities. I could feel it, a sense of lightness, like the mistakes of the past weren't weighing me down anymore. I had walked through the fire, and now I was stepping into something new, something better. One evening, as I sat on my porch, watching the sun dip below the horizon, I felt a calm I hadn't known in years. The air was crisp, the sky painted with soft shades of orange. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was exactly where I was meant to be. Sophia was gone. Lily was gone. The pain, the anger, the thirst for revenge, it was all behind me now. And here I was, standing at the edge of a new beginning.